There are moments in war when maps lose their meaning, when the lines drawn by generals fade beneath the weight of ordinary men's resolve. One such moment came on a nameless hill somewhere in the blood-soaked valley of Kunar, Afghanistan. The sun had just risen, red, swollen, and silent, over the ridge where Bravo Company had been stationed for 72 sleepless hours. Their mission was simple: hold Hill 49. But the hill wasn't just a position. It was the only high ground keeping hundreds of insurgents from flooding the valley below. At the center of this fragile defense stood Sergeant Daniel Cole, a quiet, disciplined squad leader from Kansas. He wasn't loud nor decorated, but every man in his unit would follow him without hesitation. He was the kind of soldier who led with his eyes, not his voice. Opposite him was Captain Rains, a proud officer whose arrogance grew heavier than his gear. Rains had ordered constant aggressive pushes down the slope, reckless assaults that cost lives. He wanted headlines, not survival.
When Cole suggested a tactical withdrawal to regroup, Rains snapped. "You don't question orders, Sergeant, you follow them." But Cole saw what Rains refused to. The hill was about to be overrun, and blind pride would get everyone killed. As the radio crackled with approaching fire, a single thought formed in Cole's mind. If command won't protect the hill, the soldiers will. And at that moment, the tide began to turn. It began with a scream of mortars slicing through the air. The ground shook, dust clouded vision, and machine gun fire tore the ridge. Rains stood exposed on the front trench, shouting into the chaos, until a sniper's round grazed his helmet, spinning him to the dirt. He froze. Panic washed over his face. Cole didn't wait. He vaulted from cover, yelling orders with a clarity that cut through the storm. "Second team, shift flank! Don't let them crest!" Then it happened, the turning point. Cole grabbed the radio from the stunned captain and called in precision fire. His voice was steady. "Eagle Command, this is Bravo 3. Fire mission, grid 2107, danger close." Seconds later, the hill exploded in thunder. Enemy positions vanished in flame. When the dust settled, the advance was gone. The tide, that relentless wave, had broken against the will of 10 men and one defiant sergeant.
Silence lingered over the battlefield, broken only by the hum of smoke and the distant hiss of cooling metal. Captain Rains sat slumped against a rock, his pride shattered, along with his command. His men stood around him, watching, not out of respect, but disbelief. The officer who demanded obedience had frozen, while the soldier who dared to defy him had saved them all. Cole stood before him, helmet off, eyes steady. "Sir," he said evenly, "orders mean nothing if they bury the truth beneath them." Rains didn't respond. He couldn't. His authority had been burned away in the fire he'd ignored. When the commanding major arrived hours later, he saw the scorched ridge, the bodies of the fallen, and the small platoon that still held its ground. He demanded a report. Rains opened his mouth to speak, but it was Cole who stepped forward first. He didn't exaggerate or accuse, he simply stated the facts. The hill was almost lost. We acted to save it. The major studied him in silence, then nodded. "Then you did what soldiers are meant to do." Word of the defense spread quickly through the base. Men who had never met Sergeant Cole whispered his name in the mess hall. They said he was the one who looked death in the eye and didn't blink. The one who fought for what was right, not what was ordered. And though Rains was quietly reassigned weeks later, the story of his failure became the backdrop for Cole's unspoken lesson, that leadership isn't found in rank or command, it's found in conscience. The moral was clear. A soldier's loyalty is sacred, but it is not blind.
Months later, the hill was renamed Cole's Ridge. The map still marked it as Hill 49, but to the men who fought there, it had another meaning, a symbol of the moment the tide of arrogance was stopped by quiet conviction. Sergeant Cole never accepted medals for it. When asked by a reporter during a later deployment how it felt to become a legend, he simply said, "Legends are just stories that people keep telling because they need to believe something good still exists." Years passed, the war changed, bases closed, but among the new recruits, whispered late at night in barracks across the country, the story lived on. They spoke of the soldier who defied orders not out of rebellion but out of duty, the man who taught them that obedience without reason is surrender without honor. Even now the ridge remains quiet, wind sweeping over its stones, carrying echoes of that long battle. The earth remembers. And if you listen closely, you can still hear it, the calm, steady voice that turned chaos into purpose. Hold the line. Because sometimes the bravest act in war isn't to advance, it's to stand firm when every order tells you not to.